Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Hopefully, loaded up discussion today. We've got Bitcoin actually just moving now. It's moved up. It was holding 105k. It's now got a little bit of a move on to 107 amidst a bit of general drama. Is in the US at the moment. Trump sent the National Guard to LA, but there seems to be movement on the tariff or the trade discussions with China. So we'll talk about that. We've got the Plasma ICO live today as well. $500 million FDV, $50 million raise, 250 mil cap. We'll explain what all that means a little bit later today. And X announces Polymarket as official prediction market for X. We'll get into that headline too. We've also got the latest on price action and crypto in general, NFT prices as usual. So stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today, and we are ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is exceptionally risky, and we don't know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Monday. It is the 9th of June. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, I have a confession to make.
Oh,
I said on Friday I'm going to go golfing past weekend, but I was wrong on the date. Golfing is only happening this weekend, so I cannot report anything on that because I did mess up the date of the golf course, unfortunately.
How do you not know? How do you not know what you're doing on the weekend on the Friday before?
Because
So locked in.
Yeah, because that's a serious answer. I've been like super busy the last couple of weekends of doing portfolio work again, and we've been having a couple of calls trying to figure out the strategy and basically challenge ourselves to see if we're on the right way for the next, I don't know, I would say 6 to 9 months, at least for the rest of the year. And that has been a massive priority, I would say.
I don't know if this is, I don't know if it's like hubris or arrogance or self-confidence or any of the above combination. But I think I was telling you the other day, maybe it's just experience, to be honest, but I really felt like after the last two conversations we had, the long ones we've had over the weekend or whatever, just kind of seeing the market so much more clearly. Like, look, because realistically, my investing experience, and I've tweeted about this before, I was a terrible trader. I didn't know how to trade anything, didn't know how to invest when I was younger, lost every single every single thing that I invested in when I was in my early 20s. I just lost. I just didn't know what I was doing. And then I obviously started taking it a bit more seriously, but pretty late, all things considered, like late 20s. And so this is like a few years in for me now. I only went full time in this space 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And maybe this is obvious, but it just seems like I'm seeing things way more clearly. And when we were sketching out, like, right, where are we going to focus our attention? It just seemed so obvious to me and us, like the directions we were going to take. And, we've tweeted about all this stuff publicly. Obviously, something like Hyperliquid is superb. We've been talking about it for ages. That was one of the things we've been speaking a lot about Mega ETH increasingly. And, it's obvious, it's very much public that we've kind of taken positions in the only liquid way to get get some kind of exposure there via the Bad Buns collection. And we have and we've got Fluffles as well. So it's like and then things like Plasma, for example, which is today, which we're excited to talk about a little bit later in the show. Like it just feels like we're seeing this everything much more clearly now, knowing things like units going to happen on Hyperliquid and just being able to separate the noise from the sound. So sorry, the noise from the signal or something like that. Ledge, any reflections there? Like any thoughts on our general direction of thought?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get distracted and kind of focus on one thing and lose track of everything else that's going on. I would say that was the case with Laudio, for example, where the play maybe would have been to position yourself on the Infinex leaderboard on other leaderboards if you can't realistically make it to the top 25. And similarly, I had this post out, I think it was on the weekend, where I was saying the three things I'm looking at are Mega ETH, I'm not looking at, I'm like participating the most actively and deploying a fuck ton of cash in to be probably more serious about that. Hyperliquid, Mega ETH, and Plasma. And then the interesting thing was to see that I would say a third of the people, maybe 40% of the people in the comments were not aware of what's going on with the Plasma sale. And I think for those looking at it, and we're going to get into the news, they are pretty much aware of the fact that there's a lot of whales ready to put a ton of capital into this. But again, we'll touch on that later. And I feel like a similar thing also happened with the Circle IPO, where if we look at the pre-market for that again, it's up another 13% on the pre-market. It's going to
Is it
open
going
above
to 120 now?
121 again, yeah.
Gosh.
And yeah, I think it becomes easier with time to like have fun, play around with Laudio. I was spamming obviously the shit out of that, but also not lose track of some of the bigger other things that are going on that might have way more impact on your potential future journey in crypto than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is experience though, man. Like, if you think about it now, and I mean, I was going to say, if you were coming into the space now, I'm not convinced that anyone's coming into the space now. This is like, I don't know if this is a hot take as such, but maybe this is obvious. I think NFTs in 2021 brought net new people into the space. Like, I came into the space via NFTs. I know loads of other people who got attracted to like digital collectibles, and that's why they came to the space. And then they learned about crypto separately. I am one of those examples. Did meme coins really bring that new influx of people? And if they did they stay, or did they just get outrageously burnt? I don't know if the people coming in from meme coins had this deep affiliation with crypto itself, like crypto values. Whereas I think if you came in with via NFTs, you appreciated, like, I don't know, digital scarcity, for example, or maybe the art side of things. And I know it's a bit of a meme when people talk about being here for the art, but that literally was my journey in. So I think the people who are coming in now, if there are any at all, I wonder if like all these Kaito leaderboards get distracting. How many leaderboards are you supposed to yap for? And actually, if you take it all away, there are not, and I think this is always the case, but maybe there's more distractions than ever. There's not many high quality things to get involved in, and maybe all you need to do is just really distill it down. This is, I guess, what we tried to do on the show as well, like distill this stuff down into what you really need to focus on. 1, Hyperliquid. 2, Mega ETH. 3, I don't know if there's Plasma Cell anyone can get into, because I think it might be quite competitive, but just knowing that it's there, knowing that it's backed by Tether, and being appreciative of that, I think is important. And then there's other promising things as well, like Infinex and other maybe fun games that come around. Like Laudio would have been super profitable for people who are playing that particular game. So, but just having an awareness of that, I think is helpful. Ledge, any final thoughts before we get into the stuff today?
Yeah, I had this post out on the weekend where I was like, that you've been tricked into thinking meme coins will onboard the masses, and was quite an interesting discussion under that. Easy was taking the counterpoint and saying stuff like Chill Guy onboarded hundreds of thousands of people, but even he then admitted that not a lot of them are probably still sticking around. That transition from, just being a chill guy, buying a meme, thinking you're gonna 100x or whatever, 1000x your portfolio with that, is not necessarily the transition to then, I don't know, exploring Mega ETH, Hyperliquid, or like being more interested in Web3. And I feel that it worked better the last time around. Like even looking at myself, right? I've been in crypto for way longer than the last cycle. I bought ETH at $11 the first time, but I hadn't any interest to do anything with it. I was like, just yeah, I have a bag, I'm holding it. I have no idea what's going on. But then in 2019, this is like my entry into being more active in Web3 is when you had Gods Unchained, when you had NFTs, when you had something to do with that. And I think it is like this, don't want to call it a productive asset because that's not, but like something that you can take action with, whether that's playing a game or doing something. Whereas like with, buying a meme, you can hold that and either flip that for profit or lose all your money or lose parts of your money with that and walk away. But there was like no follow-up action to do on that would have had the potential to even convert you into someone who is curious to explore Web3.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just like, I've just been reflecting, being like, wow, I really feel really feel like I've got a decent plan. Got a decent plan here for the next few months, and maybe every now and again things might come in the way. But ideally, want to try and stick to that as much as possible, and just take advantage of other opportunities that might pop up as we go.
Okay.
As usual, we'll just
Before we get into the price action, if you had to attribute percentage to, you know, how is the percentage that what we have is a good plan, and how is the percentage that this is full on hubris that we are hubris mode that we're in? I'd say 80-20. What's your
80-20? That is a
80%
good
we
plan.
have a good plan, 20% hubris, and we're gonna, get burned at the end of this.
I mean, there's always a chance, right? I don't really know how to answer that question, but take the plasma. Maybe we'll get into the plasma conversation in a bit, but just take the plasma one as a question, as a. I'll apply the same type of thinking that I apply to the investment stuff. So plasma is raising at 500 mil FDV. I asked myself like four probabilistic questions. What is the percentage chance? And I guess maybe you can apply this to portfolio. What is the percentage chance that they trade lower than that? What is the percentage chance they trade the same as that? What is the percentage chance they trade higher than that? And what is the percentage chance they rug, like, and it goes to zero? Those are the four potential things that can happen. So maybe I'll discuss plasma specifically a little bit later, but in the same way, that's what I would, how I'd answer your question. It's like, what is the percentage chance my portfolio trades higher or the same, lower, or I get completely wrecked? I would say I'm pretty confident. I'm like pretty damn confident in the positions we've taken individually, together. I mean, we kind of discuss this stuff and end up relatively in the same region, but yeah, 80-20 might be appropriate, you know? And maybe if it's any lower than that, then maybe you're being too conservative.
English is taking the point to say that me saying that I'm 80% confident in my plans, that in of itself sounds like hubris.
You are 100% full of hubris when you say that 80%, you're 80% confident. That's a good take. That's a very good take. Okay, let's get into the main stuff. We'll do some more of this kind of reflecting as we talk about maybe the investment stuff later in the show. But let's get you up to speed with everything you need to know today. We've got starting with the majors as usual. We've got Bitcoin trading up almost a couple of percent to back to 107. God, it dipped down to 100, didn't it, over the weekend? Which on Friday was it, with the Elon and Trump fallout? But bounced all the way back up almost 2% to 107. ETH is up 1% to 2.5 as well. XRP is up a couple of percent to 2.2. BNB is flat at 654. Solana is up 4% to $155. Our favorite alt majors as well. Hyperliquid is up 5% back to $36, up 11% on the week. Sui is up 4% to $3.30. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we have not too much huge movement, although there is one outlier. Doge is up 1% to 18 cents. Pepe's up 4%. Trump's up a couple of percent. Bonk is up 6%. SPX, Murad's coin, is up another 12%, which is up 34% on the week. This is outperforming everything, including Fartcoin now. We mentioned on the show not so long ago that Murad's been churning out some pretty aggressive videos on TikTok. So the price seems to be moving along with the production of those videos and publication of those videos. So that's pretty interesting to note. Fartcoin is up as well, though, 12.5% back to $1.12. WIF's up 8%. Pengu's up 3%. Generally green day on the memes. I think that's, kind of just following the rest of the market being a little bit more up as well. Getting into the headlines themselves, we've got Bitcoin up, and for some reason it seems to be up on this news that I just saw. It's not in the snapshot, but I just saw that US and China are supposed to be having trade talks in London. Apparently this news came out on Friday, but the market, someone else reported it today, and then the market just reacted to it. I don't know what's going on. I don't think this market is particularly smart at the moment, especially if it's going to just dump from 106 to 101 on a fight between Elon and Trump, and then it just comes back the next weekend. It just feels like every dip is for buying at the moment, especially if you're going super short term. Next, Plasma ICO is live today. That raise is going to be at a $500 million fully diluted valuation. They're looking to raise 50 million, so 10% of the tokens will be sold, and there'll be a $250 million cap. Hopefully there are not 5 people with $50 million to deposit in 5 goes, because that is the deposit limit. It is 50 mil. This is going to be a bit of a whales game. We'll talk about that more later. And then finally, very interesting integration. X announces Polymarket as their official prediction market. So we'll talk about that too. Some notable price action. Kita, again, we've been speaking about this blockchain, up another 14% to 1.65 bill now, up 70% in the last 7 days. This is the coin that everyone should have been in. Realistic, like we say this every couple of days at the moment. Ledge, you're looking in despair at the moment.
Yeah, I'm doing the math. So 40 mil is when I got the thesis of my friend who bought in aggressively. So I'm now Mr. 400 something X on that. Beautiful. Lovely.
4 mil or 40 mil?
40, but still.
I mean, yeah,
a
either way.
40X that I missed on that, yeah.
Oops. Well, there's a lot of other things to go. But yeah, I mean, this has been on a heater more than anything, basically. Hyperliquid meme per is also up 11% to 145 mil. I think that's one of the main memes on Hyperliquid. SPX, as I said as well, up another 6% to $1.26. Notable sales on the NFT side, Ledge, anything we need to note?
Yes, the NFT side of things is bit of a mixed look, to be honest. Doodle's up 3.5%, back above a 1 ETH floor at 1.08 to be precise. Pudgies, however, are down 2%, 9.12 ETH floor. Relays are down a touch more than that, 3% at a 2.2 ETH floor. Azuki's up 2%, 2.1 ETH floor. However, if we zoom out a bit, basically everything is red over the last 7 days, down anywhere in the range from 4 to 16% even. So nothing positive to report on there. If I had to pick out some positive price action, unsurprisingly, Bad Buns that is the tradable collection on Mega ETH, which you referenced at the start of the show. They're up a ton. They're at a 0.6 ETH floor by now.
Indeed. I just quote tweeted my tweet from a couple of weeks ago, which was like sharing the thesis for that particular collection. If you're interested, you can take a look. Getting into the rest of the roundup, we have ETH being on a 15-day streak of ETF inflows. That's pretty impressive. Bitcoin in that same period has definitely had some outflows. So a bit of institutional demand for ETH here. That's pretty good. Gemini announces confidential submission to file for IPO. Doesn't sound very confidential to me, but it was reported widely on Friday. I don't know what people are thinking when they write these headlines. I was just re-reporting the headline, but don't know how you can announce a confidential submission.
I like that the headline, I don't know who it was who posted, but he posted in all caps lock to say it's a confidential submission.
Well, the thing, yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. Investigation into Argentina President Milei involvement in Libra finds him not guilty. Guess who organized this investigation, Legendary?
He himself?
Correct.
Yeah.
The investigation did not find him guilty. Apparently, there is a separate investigation going on as well. But the one that he created found him not guilty. So that is good to note. More news. Double up for Unit here. This is pretty interesting, actually, and important. So I just want to stop joking for a second. Unit buys the U pump ticker for Hyperliquid in preparation for pump token launch. Remember, we speak about Unit all the time. They've already bought the Unit ticker for Hyperliquid. They're probably going to have a token themselves, probably accessible by doing spot volume on the majors, because they are the people who've brought the majors to Hyperliquid, and they get a fee all the time that those things are traded. They bought the pump ticker, so it looks like whenever pump fund launch, it will be tradable on Hyperliquid. And this is also big news. Unit switches on the buys for Hype, funded by the selling of the accumulated spot Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. So remember, every time Bitcoin, ETH, or Sol is traded on Hyperliquid, because they're all unit Bitcoin, unit Sol, unit ETH, because they're the people who've brought those assets to Hyperliquid to make them tradable, they are earning money. When they've done that previously, they've held spot Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. Someone tracked their wallet over the weekend, and it looks like they're selling those majors and just buying Hype with it instead. So you know how people speak about hype being, everyone knows that hype is just aggressively buying back their token all the time. I think it's like 97% of what they make just goes back into buying the token. Now, what you see is a second entity deciding, like, look, I don't know the proportions, by the way, but saying, okay, we're going to make all this money on Hyperliquid. We are also going to start buying the token aggressively, as in Hyperliquid's token. So that I think is really important to know. I think that's quite niche Hyperliquid news, which I think is super important for everyone to bear in mind and take note of. And then on the social crypto side, finally, Zcash social leaderboard goes live on Kaito. And also the Kaito claim for Skate will go live today. That's for Skate Yappers, AMM referrers, and the Kaito ecosystem. So keep that in mind if you're staking any Kaito. Maybe there'll be a link shared a little bit later for people to get a little slice of Skate. That is the Web3 Roundup, Legendary. We are going to get into the main headlines in a bit. Got some important stuff to discuss. But before we get there, anything catching your attention from around Web3?
Just to double check on that. So Unit is essentially also doing buybacks, although structured, or not buybacks because hype is not their official token, but it's also accumulating hype at the same time while we have hype itself using the fees to buy back the token.
Correct.
Interesting.
That is interesting, isn't it? I'm glad you thought so. I thought it was too.
I didn't see that at all. Completely would have missed it otherwise.
Let me share with you the tweet. It might be worth bringing. Let's. I think it's so important that let me find the tweet for you because
While you do that, hype is on the move. By the way, it's up to 37.4 now. It's up 5.5% on the day.
Gosh, okay, that's really started moving then. Maybe people have digested this news that I just mentioned. But let me just find this specific tweet for you and we'll bring it up and actually talk through it because maybe I think that will be helpful to people.
Mhm.
All right, here we go. I'm going to send it to you in the private chat here. Okay, so actually, I think I sent you the quote tweet. It's the one underneath it, actually, if you click into it. So I'll read it out for the people who are not watching, but for the people who are watching, we've got this up on screen. This is a tweet from Steven. He said, when Hyperunit launched, there was criticism about spot Bitcoin ETH Sol fees accruing to Unit instead of to Hyperliquid or the assistance fund. There was this big FUD at the beginning, just to give people context, that like, why is it that a separate entity that is not Hyperliquid is going to be making all of this money on like pretty big markets, right? That whoever brought Bitcoin to Hyperliquid is obviously going to make a ton of money, just like obviously. Whoever brought ETH and Sol over to Hyperliquid is obviously going to make a ton of money. So the question was like, why are they going to have their own token? Why are they taking it away from Hyperliquid? Like, if people are obsessed with the hype token price going up, why would there be value leaked to this other entity? Now, we know Hyperliquid have always said, like, look, we need other people to build with us. We're a small team. So they're going to allow other big protocols to get built on Hyperliquid. So that was the justification. There are going to be other protocols who are super successful. Hyperliquid can't do everything themselves. So that's that point. So they've obviously been making all this money on the trading of these major assets. And after months of accruing fees, I'm going back to reading the tweet now. After months of accruing fees, Unit has turned on a buy on hype, funded by selling the spot Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol it has accumulated. So, it's accumulated. I think on this screenshot, I'll just read it out for the people who are looking. There's 300 Sol there. There's 18 ETH and there's 0.7 Bitcoin. I don't know. Okay, so this is not their total amount. I don't think this is their sell orders that are in. So they were going to be selling 0.7 worth of Bitcoin over 2 hours. They were going to be selling 18 ETH of ETH over 10 hours, 300 Sol over 3 hours, and then they'd be buying hype over the next 12 hours. So with those proceeds, so it was kind of a way to exit their core positions and then a way to get into hype. So Ledge, there it is. What do you think?
Yeah, that is massive because ultimately Unit is again bringing BTC, Solana, ETH, Litecoin as native assets to Hyperliquid. They themselves will generate a lot of volume. That perfectly then addresses that criticism and is in line with Hype's fee buyback strategy. So if they're creating multiple verticals like that, and the ecosystem is basically aligned to do token buybacks over a broader like scope and longer time frame, that could be a massive catalyst. The one thing, if I had to take the other side of that and play devil's advocate, would be to ask, how long can this be sustainable? Like, someone will probably want to sell those Hype tokens at some point in time, and maybe you can make the argument that Hype itself is the one who has the longest time horizon in there, but who is preventing Unit from dumping all that Hype once it maybe reaches 60 or $70? That would be the only counterpoint to make here.
Okay, a couple of things to address there, and then I'll give you a separate counterpoint, which I think would be a better counterpoint. I think that at some point, stakers, and this is not based on any information, it's just what I'm thinking. I think Hyperliquid stakers will end up getting some kind of revenue share, I think. At some point, a little bit. Basically, I think the whole point of them buying back their own token is not for to just take it out of circulation. There's going to have to be revenue share at some point, so the tokens that they buy back earn on it. I think that makes sense, right? That's why you would buy back your token, because you're trying to participate in the profits. That would be the reason to buy back rather than just to take it out of circulation. So I think that will have to be the case. I think that Unit do not, if you do a bit of research into, I've spoken about Shoku before, the person behind it, it's kind of very revered trader, investor. I don't think that the kind of people that are going to do this and then dump. I don't think. That's my opinion based on the research. But the thing that I would say is that if they ever have their own token, then I think it becomes unsustainable for them to just keep buying other tokens. Maybe what would make sense for them then is to do a Hype, but for Unit, if that makes sense. So whenever they have their own token Unit out on the open market, and they are obviously going to keep making all these fees from the trading of Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, what they would do then, instead of buying Hype, they would just keep buying Unit, right? I think that would be the thing if they wanted to do a similar mechanism style of drop to what Hype did. So I agree with you. I kind of come to the same conclusion. It would be unsustainable for Unit potentially, because at some point they're going to have their own token, and then maybe they'd want to do it with their own token. Any thoughts there, Ledge?
I mean, you still could spin a double loop. So they do token buybacks of Unit token, and Unit token is getting basically a fee share from the TWAPing into Hype, paid out in Hype. You could structure it that way, which is kind of similar to how Liquid Launch ultimately works, where you stake your Liquid Launch tokens and you get paid in Hype instead of the Liquid Launch token. So that would kind of be in line with that. And
oh god, this is making me more bullish, man. Do you think?
I wanted to finish the sentence. It would increase the Ponzi loop by like just one more loop added to that. Yes, it makes me bullish on it though. I think that momentum can sustain for a while. And I think again that both things can be true on different time horizons, right? I think that the Hyperliquid has a lot of upside, but I also think there will come a point in time where it is the right move to sell the token. Like, I never want to create that impression that I'm like infinitely bullish on something, because ultimately this is how many ETH people missed the Solana trade, because they were like so stuck in the ecosystem that they completely had ignored that something new came up that had a lot of momentum going, and then it might have been time to move on from Solana to Hype. So I can be bullish on that, but I can also say that at some point I will want to rotate my funds out of that ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay. That is fair. Let's keep it moving then. Let's get into the main headlines. We've got 3 very interesting ones today. Ledge, maybe just a quick one on what is going on with Bitcoin, and well, actually the whole market's just moved this morning. Any update on the States? Is that worth spending any time on? And then we'll get into Plasma as well, which I think is important. And what was the other headline today? We've got the Polymarket stuff.
Polymarket stuff. Yeah. Yeah, maybe a quick double update on the states. On the one hand, we have a tariff news. A meeting is set to happen today between US and China. That is set to happen in London, and there's been rumors circulating around that this new negotiation round might bring very, very good results. Apparently, that is also as a follow-up to a call that Donald Trump and Xi had last week, which Trump described as a very good talk. So generally, I think the momentum on the US China tariffs has shifted back to being more positive again. And that's probably something the market is pricing in over those last couple of hours with BTC running above 107K. And as you said, with what happened before in the weekend, however, which kind of started on Friday with Elon and Trump falling out, and BTC did go as low as 101K. On that situation or on that end, it seems like they're starting to kind of be friends again, because with the tensions, with the riots that are now going on in LA, and I'm going to get into those in a second, we now see Elon screenshotting things that Trump is posting over on Truth Social and basically agreeing with Trump's stance that the National Guard has been sent into LA, that these riots need to be stopped there. So it kind of seems that the LA riot situation is accelerating the Trump Elon makeup arc. And just to maybe say what's quickly happening in LA is started on Friday, so we have now 3 straight days of rioting going on, and it all began on Friday after ICE, the immigration agency, made dozens of arrests across the city over alleged immigration violations. And this basically was the starting point for riots, which further then escalated, which then led to the National Guard being sent to LA with 300 people being deployed, and Trump going even further, saying that he's open to increase the amount of National Guard deployed to 2,000. He's basically, if this is not stopping, then martial law can be declared over that. On the one hand, on the other hand, both the mayor of LA as well as the governor of California, both being Democrats, are not very happy with Trump deploying the National Guard. But it seems that these tensions and riots are escalating, and definitely have escalated over the last 3 days. And as I just said before, this news is something where Trump and Elon are aligned again and are willing to, quote unquote, support one another on the timeline.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm about to getting hay fever a bit. Did you okay, so that's going on. We're obviously not getting too political here, we're just trying to analyze the effects on the market. It sounds like the market maybe cared a bit, but ultimately is really moved aggressively forward here, more on the trade stuff. So these meetings are going to be taking place between China. I didn't realize it was today, but so China and US allegedly today in London. And that really got the market moving, in spite of the fact that this was announced on Friday, I think. So not entirely sure why the market is taking that long to respond, or it's just a bunch of people just being super late to it. Is that I don't know, looking at the chart, we're just very confident here above 100, or at least we have been for a while. There are still pretty heavy hitting negative bits of news every now and again. I shouldn't say very negative, but as in of the tariff style, negotiations are going bad, someone insults someone, Trump and Elon get into a fight, but it doesn't seem to want to go beneath 100, for example. So my reading of the whole situation is that I'm taking quite a lot of confidence from, even in a period of uncertainty, which it is, and a little bit of back and forth and potential conflict. I think people are remaining relatively optimistic, at least on the crypto side. Eddie, what's your final reflection there? Then let's talk Plasma.
Maybe it's even fueling it from both sides. So as chaos is descending, yes, there's a sell-off, but it feels like that there's a strong belief at around the 100K mark that Bitcoin is a good chaos hedge. And then on the other hand, and that's certainly supported by the like constant ETF inflow pressure, every positive news is used to send the market higher. Maybe specifically to the negotiations in London that are happening today, they are like happening at a very high level. On the US side, you have the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, as well as Treasury Secretary Bessent representing the US of A. And on China's side, you have the Vice Premier joining those talks. And from what analysts have been saying on that, at least a limited agreement, whatever that would look like, is expected to be the outcome of that. And again, I think that the market very much has the appetite to react to those news positively.
Yeah. Just think, if you're thinking through probabilities, it's like every time doubt sets in or someone insults someone and someone says things are going badly, we go down. But like we've just been in this plus above 100K range for a while. Like that's the worst of it at the moment. And if you were to think through like what's the probability of the I don't think ultimately China and the US can operate properly without some kind of stable deal in place. So the market's just super ready to hear that positive news and just move up, I think. Even if it's not as, it's not going to be the fully globalized world type of deal that we've had in the past, but like it's just market just wants some certainty. It's just looking for an excuse to go up once it gets that. And even when it doesn't get it, still above 100. Bitcoin's still above 100. So that's my kind of thinking at the moment. Let's see. Right. And anything else there, Ledge? Otherwise, let's do Plasma.
Let's do Plasma.
Okay. So as you know, or as you should know, Plasma is I'm going to share my screen here. Plasma is the blockchain which is backed by Paolo from Tether, also backed by prominent angel and crypto trader, investor Kobe. It is is pitched as the stable coin. It's the blockchain for stable coins. Very much backed by Tether. It's their entry into the blockchain market. They're doing a raise today where they are looking to sell 10% of the XPL tokens, which will be $50 million worth at a $500 million FDV. Crucially to understand, because I know lots of people have not read the documents, the sale itself does not take place today. Today is the beginning of a deposit period. So today the floodgates will open and there's a $250 million cap, at least initially. That's like the first cap. What you have to do if you want to participate is you put your money in and then you start to accrue points. Those points will determine what proportion of the 10% of XPL sale you can participate in when the deposit period ends and when the pre-sale period starts. So basically, I think people have called this like a lock drop. It's kind of like it's a farming period where you need to get as many points as possible by putting your capital in, which will determine your final allocation. Then you need more stable coins to actually enter the pre-sale. So today is not the pre-sale itself. Today is the opening of the deposit. And then the pre-sale will be another time, depending on how much you've put in. So that's like the basic mechanic of it. In terms of some more specific details, which will be super important for any potential investor, the cap is 250 mil today. The reason why that is probably not very much is because the maximum deposit for an individual is 50 million. And I'm pretty sure I've heard and had conversations with people who are going to be depositing at least $1 million, if not more. And so there are definitely people who are going to be sitting here with 7 to 8 figures trying to enter this pre-sale. What would the outlook be? I think 500 mil fully diluted valuation. I think you're looking, who are they going after? Let me just put that into context first. I think that they will be looking at something like Tron. Tron at the moment is the chain where a lot of stablecoin activity takes place when people are transferring money, whether it's in Africa or Latin America in particular. That is the type of business that Plasma wants to take, that Tether, that they want to compete with at least. And Tron is a 20 bill plus protocol.
27.
There you go, 27 bill. So look, I'm not saying in any way that this gets there, you know, on launch, because they're obviously going to have to do a hell of a lot of BD. Maybe they've already been doing a lot of BD in order to establish those connections and get those payments moving, and get in front of the right people across the world. This is a huge, huge job to do. But I'm just saying that is probably what the aim is, or what the potential valuation could be. Whereas, maybe in the short term, I think if it was going to go, I think you could see something. The demand is suggesting is going to be multiples of what you're getting now, and then I'm just telling you what the ceiling might be, or what they're kind of gunning for. Ledge, any reflections, any questions? I think I probably looked into this more than you. So, what are your thoughts, reflections, questions?
Yeah, a couple of reflections. First of all, just want to say that Kusha is commenting the entire Plasma Discord is currently watching the modern market. Let's fucking go. And also has requested to join us on stage. So I think he has a take on that. Funky also has his hand up. My thoughts are, again, looking at the Circle IPO, which is now up even more. It's up
Good
to
to bring that up.
120, up to 1 sec to bring it on screen, up to $125. That means up almost 17% in the pre-market. Where is it? There we go. That's obviously not the perfect comparison, because one is a publicly traded company now, and the other one is a token that is close to the Tether ecosystem, but it's by no means equity in Tether as a company. So that is a distinction to make. But still, I think people will look at the numbers and will see, oh, this is what Circle is valued at. This is what Circle is doing. However, they have 60, 70 bill in market cap for USDC, and Tether is at 150 bill. So definitely the largest one there. And I said it on the weekend, I think that stable coins are the road to mass adoption, from the sense that we had the news that Uber is looking into using stable coins as a payment rail, just because it's efficient to save cost. Airbnb, Apple are having similar discussions as we speak. And if any of those come to fruition, really, and you are using one of those apps, or you're using Apple Pay, and at one point you will see stable coins on there, you will become more familiar with seeing USDC, USDT. Someone had even had a post on the weekend that Paolo, Tether CEO, had reposted. I think it was in Argentina, where they had prices in a grocery store that were labeled in USDT.
Really?
Interesting. I've never seen that. Looked very, very interesting. Also very expensive. I think Oreos were like $11. But I think people will do that comparison. And if this narrative of Plasma being the Tether chain pertains, I cannot see how this is not valued way above the 500 mil where the sale is happening at right now. It will be, and that you said it will be something to keep in mind, how often that cap will potentially be increased in the future from the 250 mil. I think initially it was 100, and it was increased to 250 mil right around the Circle IPO.
Correct. So
definitely the expectation is that it will go higher. And I'm also curious to see how fast that will fill, especially from the whale appetite. I would be tremendously bullish on that if we see a couple people squeezing a 50 million ticket in, even if that means that I might be missing out on that and I have to go in once the cap gets increased again. But I'm ready for a gas one. We haven't had a gas one in a good while, but that would make me bullish if we see a couple people, putting 8 figures into that.
Yeah, I agree. Just a quick shout out to the Plasma Discord. I'm just got it up at the same time. Nathan and Scene running the show in there. Shout out to all of you guys. I gotta close it though, guys. You guys are distracting me. But it's great. It's great action in there. It's alive in there right now. So good luck for the raise. good luck. We'll be watching closely. Looking at Overarch's question here, and Funky, I see with your hand raised, we'll come to you in a second. Overarch said, too late to participate. Okay, so just a quick one on participation. If you are interested, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically today, as I said, is the deposit opening. The deposits will open. You will have to fully KYC at some point, but that day is not today. So if you want to deposit, you can deposit. You'll have to go through KYC at another point. It's via Sonar, which is Kobe's kind of ICO platform. He's obviously got Echo as well, which is the more VC style private investment side. And if you have an Echo account already, I think that's going to help in some way, but don't quote me on that. That's going to be something that gets worked out a little bit later. And it goes live, I think, in just over an hour. If you
1
want
hour and 8 minutes at 3 p.m. CET.
1 hour and 8 minutes. So there you go. We will be watching closely. I think that should probably answer your question on participation. The final thing I would say, as Legendary mentioned, the cap is 250 mil. I do not expect that cap to stay the same. This is the reason why. Just think all of the capital, all of the capital, should you wish to keep it in, and you do have the like, if you deposit stuff and you want to take it out next week, you can do that. But if you want to keep the capital in, they're going to hold that capital and give it back to you on Plasma. So they have like an incredible incentive here to keep raising the cap. And I don't know what the right balance will be, right? Because people might feel quite harsh to continue to dilute people, because obviously the amount that you put in is earning points, and the more you raise the cap, the more you're going to get diluted. So I don't know what the right balance will be, but they do have an incentive, I think, to bootstrap their new chain with a hell of a lot of TVL by reopening the cap at least a few times, because all of that money is going to get returned as USDT on Plasma. So it's like a double vampire attack, I think, on any other stable coins, because they're going to accept Athena and USDC, and it's an attack on any other chains in some respect, because like, no, take your stables off every other chain, and just they're going to vacuum it all up and spit it back out to you on Plasma. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind. Funky, your hand is raised. Thanks for being patient, man. We're going on for a little bit there. What are your thoughts? What's your takes? What are you thinking on Plasma?
GM, so good to hear your voices again, guys. Great show. And I want to say about Plasma real quick, just a very quick backstory. William E. Quigley, I was on a panel with him last Friday at University of Miami. He was one of the original co-founders of Tether. They said they started Tether with $400,000. And one of the most important things he said during his keynote was that he believes that stablecoins, this is just in contrast to Sam, he said stablecoins are probably the most important invention since paper money. And that blockchain is the perfect use case. Stablecoins are the perfect use case for blockchain. He said not everything should be on the chain, but stablecoins, this is the number one thing. So to Plasma, though, I think it's going to be very quick how much, to your point, B, this money gets vampired out of Tron. We see sort of this constant stablecoin battle over fees, right? Tron is fairly expensive. We see Polkadot, for instance, constantly flex how cheap it is to do stablecoin transactions. It's one of the cheapest, but you can't compete against free. And when TradFi comes in here and they're moving millions and millions, maybe even one day billions of dollars on chain in one fell swoop, everything happens at the margins in TradFi. And if you reduce that cost to zero, everybody's going to want to have a part of that. I think Plasma, I think you're spot on with Plasma. I think it's going to be such a huge thing. I would not be surprised to see it go to billions in evaluation relatively quickly, considering it's 500 million is what they're trying to launch at. I think Circle is kind of just almost overvalued when you think about what Tether has accomplished. And Tether dwarfs Circle. I mean, like, just it makes Circle look insignificant when it comes to USDC. Like, he was quoting numbers. So I think Plasma is going to be much bigger than people even anticipate. So I think you guys are very right to be bullish on it. I'm really excited. I don't think I'll be able to participate, honestly, because I think I'll miss the window, and not that I have anything significant to contribute when it comes to stables, but just great show all around, and Plasma is going to be huge, I think.
That reminds me, the free point, Funky, reminds me of the story in India with Reliance Jio telco company. And back then, I think it was in 2016, 10 years ago. So when they entered the market, a lot of friction, a lot of competition, was very, very expensive to get a mobile tariff, to get mobile internet in India. And then Reliance Jio came along and they basically offered it for free for the first, I don't know, 3 months, half year, whatever, and got an insane market share and ultimately ended up putting, I think, 2 or 3 of the biggest telco companies, or were the biggest telco companies before Reliance Jio entered the market, out of business because they just couldn't compete with that. It obviously couldn't keep up with Jio offering that for free in the start and didn't think that they could survive with that strategy. But it worked out very well in Jio's favor.
Just in the interest of providing a little bit of a counterpoint here, obviously like fairly bullish, right? One of the reasons why a lot of chains in general or apps, whatever, people are getting bullish and stuff now is revenue, like making money. Hyperliquid, everyone loves it because it makes money. And Tron, you mentioned it, Funky, are like kind of expensive for all these stablecoins, but that means it makes money. It makes a ton of money. So my question would be, and this is something to keep your eye on, is like, okay, if you're going to send the transfer fees to zero, you can't make money then because it's free. So yeah, sure, you're going to get loads of adoption, but you're sending one of the main revenue generators to zero. What are going to be the ways that you will, where will the revenue come from aside from that then? And my understanding is they'll have all kinds of plans to do that, but I'm just pointing out that, you know, Tron makes a ton of money, is always at the top of the revenue charts because they're actually quite expensive. This is turning one tap off, and they're going to have to switch, you know, make sure there's other taps on. So that's just like a counterpoint there. Kusho, you join us on the stage, my man. Good to have you back with us. How are you doing? What's your take on Plasma here?
I'm good. It's more of like a general take on stablecoins. So recently a thing happened in Nigeria where people kind of discovered that almost all fintech apps on the back end were using stablecoins, especially USDT. And then a conversation spurred on from there about how Chinese and Igbo merchants have been using stablecoins to transact for like the past 15 plus years, or I think 10 plus years. I mean, since the beginning of stablecoins, basically. And it just makes me more and more bullish on stablecoins in general, especially given the fact that we've been paying significant fees all the way from then till now, only to then see that with Plasma, we're probably looking at free fees. So like, there's going to be a lot more fintech in Africa as a result of this. My hope generally is that we see a lot more money moving between African countries, which I think is an implication of Plasma. So that's kind of what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I love it, man. I appreciate the perspective from Africa. I'm pretty sure they signed a pretty big partnership with someone out there. We reported it on the show. I can't remember the name, but always appreciate your perspective, man. Sorry, what was that?
I think Yellow Card.
Yes, that's the one. Yellow Card. There you go. Appreciate your thoughts, man. As usual. Ledge, we're at time for today. Do you want to just tell people the final headline, what it is, what we need to know, if anything, before we close out?
Yep, absolutely. On Friday, X announced that it has partnered with Polymarket, leading prediction market, obviously, to become the official prediction market partner of X. They said that they're going to launch an integrated product to deliver data-driven insights and recommendations. And I'm quoting from that announcement. We do not know what exactly that means or how that product could look like. But another thing they pointed out is that, and I'm quoting again, combining Polymarket's accurate, unbiased, and real-time prediction market probabilities with Grok's analysis and X real-time insights will enable us to provide contextualized data-driven insights to millions of Polymarket users around the world instantaneously. That is from the CEO of Polymarket. Just to put it in perspective, once again, in 2024, over $8 billion in predictions were made on Polymarket across all the different categories. So definitely a massive announcement, definitely a partnership that's interesting to watch. And I'm curious to see if that integration is going to go both ways. That is, if you'll be able to see relevant X posts on Polymarket, but also if Grok, for example, and that's the part that I'd be excited for, would get access to Polymarket data. And whenever you ask Grok something, I don't know, about inflation data, if you get a Polymarket stat with that, that would be really, really cool.
I mean, it sounds that way, right? Like I would bet anything that would be the two-way partnership. Like they can feed off each other's information. And and really integrate it in with each other. So that's a great line of thinking. I think we will see that, but I just wanted to bring that information to you because obviously Polymarket's running on a ton of stable coins as well. Another great use case for stable coins. Okay, guys, that is our show for today. As usual, hope you enjoyed it. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube. And if you want to catch up, we also publish to Spotify and Apple too. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, thanks to Legendary for co-hosting. Thanks to Funky and Kusho for your contributions. Thanks to the Plasma Discord for tuning in. We look forward to the countdown to the Plasma sale. Will be taking place in 58 minutes. Keep an eye out for that. Have a wonderful day. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.